Hello everyone! Now when Ultra League came back, I wanted to test the newly buffed Steelix, whose fast move Dragon Tail went from dealing 9 base damage to 13, which is a pretty big improvement, and objectively Steelix is probably still inferior to Galarian Stunfisk, but there are certainly positions where Steelix is better when it comes to farming down Pokemon with only fast moves. The team is not that fancy, I just put Steelix in the lead, and the two most common weaknesses it has are fighters and water types, so by going to PvPoke's team builder you can get a list of Pokemon that works well with Steelix by putting in the most common threats and then looking at what potential threats those have. And here you can see a list of Pokemon that pairs well with Steelix, so I chose Gallade as the main safe switch and Venusaur as a closer. And my Steelix is only 15-14-15 level 40 with 2410 CP, so it's not XL'd at all. So keep in mind that an XL rank 1 Steelix would be considerably stronger with 11% higher total damage output. And enough talk, so let's jump into the battles. My first opponent in this set is Wesker and he leads with a Gallade, which is a pretty interesting matchup since these confusions are not dealing that much damage at all, and the close combat would deal a ton of damage to Steelix. So I'm going to try to shield the close combat and then I would be set to destroy this Gallade completely. But my opponent baited and I'm going to throw my crunch and they also shield. And then I hope that my opponent throws a close combat here so that I will be able to farm down all the way. And they did, so now I will be able to farm down. And here they only did 3 confusions, so I know it's a Leaf Blade and I had no reason to throw my own charge move. And instead I go down a shield, but I still have plenty of health on my Steelix and basically 100 energy, so I'm in a good spot. And then my opponent sends in Lapras to tank an Earthquake, but then we simultaneously switch, and here Niantic decided that my opponent's switch took a turn, but mine didn't. I don't know if my opponent missed to cue his switch after the charge move, because then the switch is not going to take a turn, but my opponent should have been able to reach the Brave Bird before I reached my close combat. But anyways, now it's basically over because the Lapras won't be able to deal with my Venusaur and it almost isn't even able to defeat my Steelix. So that's the first game. My second opponent in this set is Rainy Ramen and he leads with a Gallade, so I intend to play this in the same way as last time, but my opponent is playing completely differently. He's going straight for the Leaf Blade, which means that I have no reason to shield, the first one at least. And then I go for the Earthquake, because I want to force a shield advantage. And here my opponent shields, and then he's going to be able to reach 2 charge moves before I get to my next charge move. So I guess it was a pretty clever way to deal with Steelix, but I'm completely fine with it, because now the Gallade has 0 energy and it's in perfect farm down range for my own Gallade, so now I have a whole bunch of energy and my opponent has a shield disadvantage. So here I waited as long as possible to throw my close combat to not get debuffed too early, but then my opponent switches into a Venusaur to catch my charge move. And here I make 1 extra confusion, which is super important, because that puts my opponent's Venusaur into Sludge Bomb range. So if I didn't do that, I would straight up lose the game here, because I would not be able to win this matchup, because I would still need to connect with 2 Sludge Bombs, and since my opponent had an energy advantage, he would win this matchup, and then my Gallade has 0 HP, so it wouldn't be able to take down my opponent's Venusaur and connect with the close combat on the Empoleon. So, but now I have a close combat loaded since I did that 1 extra confusion, and it's going to be able to finish the game. So we will just see the Drill Peck come through and then I go for the Leaf Blade just to be sure that I had enough energy, but I knew I also had the close combat. My next opponent is Yusuke and he leads with a Alolan Ninetales, and this is the sad part with Steelix compared to other steel types. You should beat fairies with a steel type, but Steelix has Dragon Tail, which is double resisted, and then Crunch, which is single resisted, and Earthquake, which is very very slow, and it's not even able to one-shot. So Steelix actually has a terrible matchup against the likes of Togekiss and Alolan Ninetales and stuff like that. So my backline is also struggling against the Alolan Ninetales, so I'm not going to switch. I will stay in and hopefully connect with an Earthquake. I'm just able to reach it and my opponent doesn't shield, so that's good at least. And then I switch into Gallade, and hopefully I can use my Steelix as an extra shield later in the game. And I shielded there because I didn't want to get just one shot by a Dazzling Gleam. So here my opponent went into his Galvantula, and he starts to shield my charge moves, which is very good. He uses both of his shields actually, so that means that Venusaur might have a chance to sweep all 3 of my opponent's Pokemon. And here I'm thinking, should my opponent throw his charge move immediately or not? And therefore I could have went into Venusaur if I thought that my opponent wouldn't, but he had so much energy and probably risked hitting 100 energy, so I thought that he would throw immediately, and therefore I could switch in my Steelix and take one lunge. And then my opponent's last Pokemon is an XL-steelix, so I made 4 Vine Whips, and then made my Frenzy Plant, and then 3 more to maximize my energy and hit the CMP. And here the Jellicent goes down, and then the Galvantula is too low. So that was a very close game. If my opponent didn't shield with his Galvantula on the Leaf Blade, he probably would have won, but it's still satisfying to beat a triple XL meta team with Steelix. My next opponent in game number 4 is JL Chope, and he leads with an Abomasnow, so that's decent for me because it's fairly neutral, but then my opponent immediately switches into Drifblim. So this is a very weird play, so why would they switch? Either they have some kind of ABB line, or they have a very good counter to Steelix in the back. So I'm definitely going to stay in and go for crunches since they are super effective, and I would survive a Shadow Ball here with like 1 HP. So that's why I didn't shield, but they go for Icy Wind. So I suspect they have a good Steelix counter in the back, so I'm not going to shield anything with Steelix, and then I'm going to farm down the last bit with my Gallade. And here I have I don't have switch advantage, but I have energy advantage and shield advantage, so I'm going to spend both of my shields here on my Gallade and farm down all the way to 2 close combats, and then we are basically 2 against 1, and my opponent's last Pokemon is likely a water type or a fighting type, because why else would they switch there? And then they have Machamp in the back. I go for the close combat and almost one-shots it, and then farm down, and the Abomasnow is not going to be able to handle both of my Pokemon, and it's in Sludge Bomb range, so that was a good game. Moving on to the last game of the set against Maximilian, and he leads with a Drifblim, and he goes straight into Surf Edge, and there it's very important to go into Gallade as quickly as possible and go straight for the Leaf Blade, because then the Surf Edge is not able to reach the Brave Bird before you can get off the Leaf Blade, so therefore you can get a shield from them. So here I suspect that my opponent is having a Machamp in the back, because he's probably running my team from last season. So this Drifblim is going to try to farm me down with Hexes, and if they have a fighter in the back, then I straight up win, because Venusaur will defeat it. And I will come in here with Steelix, and they have a Machamp, so at this point it's completely over. Even if I just couldn't get the shield here with Venusaur, the Steelix would be able to finish the game, because it's so tanky that it would be able to reach an Earthquake against the Machamp. So at this point it's completely over. I'm going to shield the first Rock Slide and let the second one go through, because I don't have any shields, and then I farm up some extra energy on Venusaur just to outpace my opponent, but then he resigns, which he could have done a minute ago. But anyways, that's a 5-0 run with Steelix. I think Steelix is very fun to play, but it's, as I said in the beginning, still slightly worse than Galarian Stunfisk. And thanks for watching!